Hi, I'm Todd Blackledge, a college football analyst with NBC Sports, and this is the NFL Players Second Acts podcast.
Thank you for tuning in. I'm Peanut Tillman, and this is the NFL Players Second Acts podcast. With me, as always, my boy Rome. Match my energy. Bring it up. Let's be uplifted. Come on, get excited. Yeah. I know you were excited.
I am excited.
Next guest. You've been geeked all day. You've been like the notes, and I want you to introduce this next guy. Well, our next guest.
Well, okay, I will. I will thank first and foremost the Carolina Panthers for hosting us here at the Carolina Panthers Vision Studio underneath the Bank of America Stadium right here in Charlotte, where we have a quote unquote a local. Yeah. Who now lives here I'm not going to say where, but he lives here in the city of Charlotte.
It's probably a good thing.
But I'm so excited, Peanut. You're right, because I just didn't know.
He doesn't know this, how excited he was, and how excited Rome was to have this particular person on the show. Rome's been geeked all day, I kid you.
Yes, so he was part of the legendary 1983 NFL draft.
Amazing draft.
Which
class.
I just didn't know. I was born in 82. All right. Okay. I just didn't know. All right. He played quarterback in the league for 7 years with the Chiefs and the Steelers. And that's since they're going to be a legendary, absolutely legendary broadcasting career with ABC, CBS, ESPN, and he's currently with NBC Sports. He's also an author and a motivational speaker. He's had great quotable moments in his life.
We're going to get to that.
Welcome in Mr. Todd Blackledge.
Hey. Pleasure.
They call him I've just known the voice. Hey, I had no idea.
Great to be here.
You have no idea how happy this man is to have you on this podcast. And I kid you not, I'm trying to give you your flowers. Rome has been raving about you. He was like, man, I didn't know Todd did this. Did you know that in I didn't know.
Well, you don't know. You have no idea how old I feel knowing that I called some of his games when he was playing in Alabama, and now we're doing this interview together.
He's been geeked, and it really is an honor to have you on the podcast. And
good to be here.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming on.
All right. So first and foremost, before we get to the question that we have written down, I just got to tell you personally how much it means that, like you said, I've got to know you and Vern just in passing over the years. And even the time in Dallas when I got to just sit down and just talk to you for 15 minutes, how much that meant to, that you actually listened to me, that you listen to other people, and kind of pouring into me as a person that's doing the TV business, being in the media space now, after a post-football career that I didn't even know that you had the long lineage that you had. But for you to take time out of your schedule to pour into somebody else, that always means a lot, to always give back. Where did you get that from, and how often do you actually get that opportunity or look forward to doing that?
Well, I would have to go all the way back to, just the way I was raised. My dad was a football coach for 40 years, so I grew up, in a very team mindset in everything I did and every group I'm a part of, and, that whole idea of just paying it forward, So I had people that spoke into me. And when the early days of my career, I had a mentor who was the first boss I ever had in TV, a guy by the name of Guido D'Elia, who is the guy who started the first whiteout at Penn State. He was the mastermind behind that. But
What year was that?
I want to say early 90s. I don't remember exactly when. But I first worked with him. In, it would be early 2000s for the whiteout. Yeah. I first started working with him in the early 90s. Okay. And, but he just, really took me under his wing and kind of taught me about the business and really challenged me to move forward. And so I just have always, I've been doing it a long time now. This coming year will be my 34th year of calling college football games. Yes. So, I feel like I've learned a few things, and anything I can pass along, I'm happy to do that.
So you are a man of quotes, and as a kid, I want to read a quote to you and tell me what this means to you. Work will win when wishing won't. Yeah. When did you first hear that quote?
My dad, and I had it on a little placard that I had right above my door in my bedroom when I was in high school, and it was just what I saw every day before I left my room. And it's just the idea that, everybody wishes for good things to happen, or wishes to be a great player, or have a great team, or be a part of something great, but it takes work. And so it's just the idea. It's very simple, kind of catchy to remember, the 6 W's. But work wins when wishing won't. And so if you want something, you got to be willing to work for it.
And how has that helped you just throughout your career in broadcasting, football, everything else?
Well, it obviously helped me, as a player, because, the higher you go and the more competitive it gets, you got to bring it every day to have a job and to keep a job. And then in broadcasting, which kind of like you, when I first started, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it a career or not. I had to take a very entry-level position doing games for the Big East Television Network, kind of a regional package, and wasn't getting paid very much money. And fortunately, I had saved a little bit from playing so I could give it a couple years to see if it would develop. But I just worked at it, man. I grinded. And by the time I got an opportunity with a network, with ABC, I had done 3 years of regional games. I had done some NFL preseason games, and I felt like, okay, ABC only offered me 6 games. And I said, I'm willing to take a bet on myself that I've got enough in the bank now and enough reps that I think I can do this. And that 6 games became 12, and the thing took off after that.
And so another quote that I kind of got from you just looking you up, and maybe this is kind of something you kind of poured into me, and kind of tell me what you think when I say it, is that it's a privilege to play it. That's what I guess you told yourself when you were playing football, but you probably use that in your day-to-day life now, or what you're doing as a broadcaster. It seems like that, how you kind of kept it going. Yeah,
I do think it was a privilege to play. Even if your career, I wouldn't say my NFL career was a great career. I mean, everything didn't go the way I hoped or planned or dreamed about, but it was still a privilege. It was a privilege for me to play 7 years when the average career length is about half that, right?
Yes.
It was a privilege to be a part of that quarterback draft class in 1983, and 3 of those guys are now in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but I was part of that. And to work at a network level, for as long as I have now calling games, I would have never dreamed that I would be doing that, but it's a privilege. And I think part of the way that I remind myself of that is I don't care what the game is. I've done semifinal national championship games, college football playoffs. I treat every game the same way, whether it's that or whether it's a game on paper that doesn't look like much. My preparation's the same. My energy's the same. My approach to the meetings and what the time I put in and how much film I watch, I treat it the same way because I think it's a privilege to do it.
Do you ever, how often, I don't even know if you even get to see these guys, but the legendary 83 quarterback class.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys ever take pride when we see each other? It's like,
we did that.
Yeah, we were it. That's the one that everybody reminds us.
Look at these 2, they weren't us.
Do you guys ever take pride, or what is that?
Well, yeah, there was always a little bit of a bond, back from when we played, most of us were all in the AFC, so we kind of faced each other. And then I remember that probably the only time that we were all together in one place, and I've run into each one of them in different places, but the only time we were all together is the Dolphins had a retirement thing for Marino at the stadium, and they brought all of us down there, all 6 of us, and we played golf the day before, had a really nice dinner at one of Dan's places, and that was really fun. And I think that was the first and only time that all of us were together for some kind of an event like that.
Is it crazy? He was the last one too.
I know, right?
Yeah, and that
was he 14?
No, he
was even more than that.
He was at the end of the.
He was 20-something.
27.
Okay,
27. But that class, not even just
it wasn't
the quarterbacks.
Even just quarterbacks. Though.
It was everybody.
Y'all had a lot.
Oh yeah.
How many off the top of your head do you know? And maybe our production crew can figure this out. How many Hall of Famers were in that draft class?
Oh man, I don't even know.
You don't even know? Okay.
I don't know. I just know my roommate and best friend at the time, Kurt Warner, was a running back, and he went 4th. In that draft to the Seahawks, and ended up being a Pro Bowl player up there. So
great player.
Billy Ray Smith went to the Chargers. I remember that, and
Eric Dickerson was in that class.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was a bunch.
So I think one of the highlights of my career was when I knew I made it. Rookie year in the end zone, Randy Moss. I ended up getting a pick.
You made it.
I made it.
You had made it.
I made the pick as a rookie. This is when Moss is in his prime. Snatched the ball. It's a home game. I'm, Charles the nobody, Tillman. No one knew who I was. I'm from Louisiana. And I made this amazing play, right? One of the highlights of my career. My question to you is, what was one of the highlights of your career when you were with the Chiefs?
Yeah. So when I was with the Chiefs, first of all, let me take one step back. I mean, the highlight of my career, probably the biggest highlight, was my senior year at Penn State when we won the national championship. So that was the primary thing. When I went to the Chiefs, I would say the coolest memory for me, it was my second year, and we were playing opening day in Pittsburgh, and my dad was the offensive line coach for the Steelers. And so I ended up being the starter. The guy who was the starter, Bill Kinney, hurt his thumb the last preseason game. So I became the starter for week 1 in Pittsburgh. So tons of friends and family there, my dad's coaching on the other side. And we were able to win the game. And I threw a touchdown to Stephon Page. I actually ran a touchdown on a naked bootleg. And so it was, it was really a great experience for me. And just, I felt like I was ready for the moment. It was my first start in the NFL. It was against a really good team in a hostile environment, and we came out on top.
So I want to ask another question about, so you said that was probably your senior year at Penn State was probably like really the highlight, winning that national championship. So having played in one, won one, and then calling some championship games, how much has it changed just from the media attention from when you played till now and, 2024 with social media and, 4K television and everything else like that? And
also the ranking system is completely different as well.
Right? How much has that changed?
It's changed dramatically. I mean, just like the Super Bowl has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And more commercial and more hype and more attention. So is college football and the college football playoff, and now it's expanding to 12 teams this year. So it's going to be even more hyped up, but it's great. I mean, I think it's great for the game. It just shows you how much of an appetite people, particularly in this country, have for the game of football, for pro football and for college football. But just the magnitude of the game and the attention on it, the media, the social media, all of that is so much different than it used to be. And I mean, when we played for one, everybody was still tied to bowl games,
right.
And it just played out that we went to the Sugar Bowl as an independent. Penn State was not in the Big Ten. We were an independent, and we were ranked number 2, and we got to play Georgia, who was ranked number 1, who went undefeated, and they were committed to the Sugar Bowl. And so it ended up being a 2-versus-1 game for a national championship.
Right. So do you have any social media? Do you tweet?
I do a little bit, yeah.
A little bit? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just checking just to make sure.
Little Twitter, a little Instagram.
Little Twitter, little Instagram. Or X as they call it now.
Yeah, right.
Come on, dog. Hey. Come on, man. Give my man Todd some love. Right?
No,
he out the loop, bro.
I didn't say he can't be out of the loop. Right? He can't be out. The man is smart. He can't be out of the loop.
All right,
look,
just want to let you know.
I'm going to tell you how smart he was. So this is something that I didn't even know this existed.
That one. The academic.
Here it is right here. The academic All-American Hall of Fame. So you got inducted into this in 1997.
When nobody knew this existed.
No one, you graduated.
You're our first guest, Todd, that's ever been inducted into an academic All-American Hall of Fame. Just want to let you know that.
You graduated Phi Kappa Beta with a 3.8 GPA. Yeah. And what was your major?
Speech communication.
Speech communication. I didn't even know that existed. Did you know it existed when they called you? Like, how did that even come up?
Yeah.
Did they just call us like, hey, you're so smart, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're going in? Or like, what? How does that even go?
I mean, I forget how I first found out. Probably our sports information people got in touch with me, or former ones. And I tell you what, I quickly did not feel like I belonged when I got there, and the people that I was surrounded, these other athletes that were going in were like brain surgeons and incredible people. So it was quite an honor to be a part of that as well.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so how long, Todd, did it take you post career? You hang up the cleats. We all got our journey. I took a whole year. I did absolutely nothing to really kind of decompress. See, I went. Peanut went to a different one. He jumped into doing some broadcasting and some other things in the avenues. How about you? How long did it take you to hang up the cleats, like figure out what you want to do, and then say, you know what, broadcasting, whatever that media space is, that's what I want to do. Especially when back, it wasn't as popular as it is in today's terms.
There weren't as many opportunities.
Yes, that too, probably, I'm sure.
So my last year playing was 89 with the Steelers, and I wasn't sure if I was done yet or not. I was still working out and training and deciding whether I was going to go to a camp or not. And at that time, I was living in Pittsburgh, and my dad had gone through a cancer surgery. He was coaching with the Steelers, and he had to go through a cancer surgery. And so it was kind of convenient that I could be there to kind of help my mom and help take care of my dad. And while I was in Pittsburgh, I got offered to do a job in TV. It was the Penn State highlight show, and they filmed it in Pittsburgh. And the guy I was talking about earlier, Guido D'Elia, he owned a production company, and his company did this show. Oh. And so we would film it on Saturday. I said, sure, I'll do it. So we would film it on Saturdays, and they would bring the tapes in, and we would cut highlights. And so basically Guido taught me about doing on camera. He taught me how to do voiceovers. He taught me how to write copy. He taught me how to, do all this kind of stuff. And then that same year, I got a chance to do 2 games. So for whatever reason, the opening game that year, Penn State was hosting Texas, and no network picked it up.
How?
And I have no idea. And so the Penn State Football Network produced it, and Guido was my very first producer. And I did that game. Oh, wow. And then I had another game midway through the year when Penn State had a bye week. And it was another game, Iowa at Miami, that did not get picked up.
So did you actually get to go to any of these places? Because, coming out of college, like, we don't actually get to go to tailgate. We don't even know what that experience of a game is like.
Yeah.
So did you get to experience this at all, like how you do now?
So when I did that Penn State-Texas game, that was the first time that I had been like outside the stadium and experienced and feel it at all. But anyway, I did that Iowa and Miami game also. And at the end of that year, I decided I definitely would rather do games than studio, even though I liked it. And so Guido helped me put a resume tape together, and we sent it around. And I got 2 job offers. I got an offer from ESPN, but they only offered me 6 games. And I got an offer from the Big East Television Network, and they offered me 11. And so I decided, look, I need as many games as I can get. And I was going to get $1,000 a game, so I knew it wasn't going to be enough to call a career. But I took the Big East job and did it for 3 years. And even in those first couple of years, I still wasn't sure if I was done or not, or ready to hang it up. But when I got into doing it, I really liked it, and I said, okay, I'm ready to transition and try to make this a career. But it took 3 years to get an opportunity at a network where I could say, okay, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, so I think I did the broadcasting. I never went to the boot camp. You went to the NFL's broadcast boot camp, and tremendous. I just was kind of winging it when I tried the whole broadcasting thing, and I don't think I did myself any justice because I didn't have a Guido to kind of help me out or give me guidance or just push me along and give me some instruction. My question is, you started out in radio first, right?
Well, kind of at the same time. It was probably simultaneous that I did.
Okay, so why the broadcasting, TV, color commentary kind of broadcasting route versus radio?
Yeah. So it's funny because, and I didn't know this at the time, but my senior year, after we won the national championship, and I was graduating in the spring, and so I had a real light schedule. I had like a couple, independent studies.
The quarterback at Penn State has a schedule.
Well, I had a schedule now. Yeah. So, but I did an independent study, and one of the things I did, I was on kind of the little banquet circuit and was in New York a couple times, and I went and had sit-down meetings with somebody from ABC, NBC, and CBS, and I wrote my paper on what these network executives are looking for in a color analyst. And at that time, I was kind of thinking that's what I thought I might want to do if I didn't play or if I didn't coach. And so I kind of wrote that, and tucked it away when it was done and didn't really do anything with it until my career was over. But it was always in the back of my head that, I thought I would like that. Now, you guys probably do the same thing, man. I remember when I was a kid, just playing out in the street, or playing in the backyard and imitating myself, just kind of calling play-by-play about what I'm doing, And so it kind of was always a little bit of a natural thing that I thought I'd like to do.
So is there anything else that Todd Blackledge wants to accomplish in his career? You've accomplished so much. You're on the board of a couple of different honors. You're on different boards. You're on, your academic All-American Hall of Famer. Like, you've accomplished so many things.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're looking forward to trying to accomplish or put on your belt?
Nothing that I could pinpoint right now and say, I definitely am aiming or, driving to do this. I just want to keep doing this for as long as I can, keep calling games. The change to NBC after 17 years at ESPN has been really kind of refreshing and uplifting. I mean, I'm 63 years old. My partner, Noah Eagle, is 26. So, and he's super talented and he's going to be a superstar in this business. He's over in Paris right now calling the basketball stuff, you know?
Yeah?
So, I mean, he's on the fast track. But it's been super, it's come, kind of reinvigorating.
Yeah.
It's fun for
new.
me,
Yeah.
to kind of be there and be the voice of experience and the credibility and the relationship I have with coaches. So it's been really, really fun.
What do you think about also switching conferences?
Yeah.
Like, that's got to give you a little juice. Cause you probably go to different campuses that you probably haven't been to since you played, I assume.
Well, I've been doing it so long that I've been to almost all these places anyway when I was with ESPN, because I was kind of doing every conference back then. And then with CBS, I did the SEC only, and now this is the Big Ten only. But the Big Ten teams are not unfamiliar to me. But, college football has changed more in the last 2 or 3 years than it did in the 27, 30 years before that I've been involved in it, right? And so this year, every conference is different. There is no more Pac-12. The Big Ten has 18 teams, and it's coast to coast from Oregon to Rutgers, New Jersey. The SEC's got 16 teams. The Big 12 has added teams. The ACC has added teams from California. It's going to look completely different, and you've got a 12-team playoff, and they're going to start doing a revenue sharing thing along with the NIL stuff that's happening in college football. So it's sweeping changes in college football, and I'm just kind of hanging on by the coattails right now.
Yeah. So I think if I had to call a game football right now, I could probably get by and be okay. You've been doing this 10, 20, 30, what you said, 34?
30. Yeah, 34,
You've been doing this 34 years.
Yeah.
Is there a game or another sport that you think you would want to switch over to versus just doing football?
Yeah. Not in place of, I don't know that I would ever want to switch to a different sport and leave football. I love basketball. I mean, when I was growing up, one of the stops along my dad's coaching journey was he was an assistant coach at the University of Kentucky when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with Kentucky basketball, and so my dream would have been to go to Kentucky and play basketball. Well, I wasn't quite big enough, or skilled enough to play at that level. But I did coach basketball. I was a high school basketball coach for 12 years in Ohio, which is one of the things I did in the off season just to kind of scratch the coaching itch that I had. And I thought about coaching. There were several times I thought about jumping into college football coaching, but the broadcasting was just so good.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle was so good. And with young kids, it was just, coaching's a grind, man. That's a hard way to go. And I knew that.
This is a perfect segue to my question, which is, what do you tell guys that want to maybe get into more broadcasting where they're calling games?
Yeah.
What kind of advice could you give them to maybe how they get into it? And then also, once you get there, how do you separate yourself or maintain your sense of greatness or things of that nature? Because I'd like to stay on that track versus like going to the coaching because exactly what you just said.
Yeah. So first of all, I would tell people, and here's one thing I did this past year when I went to NBC. I went to the people at NBC. I said, look, I got some time. I get on site on Thursday. On Friday, if it fits with our meeting schedule, if you set up something with any of the communication school or broadcasting schools, on campus, I'd love to sit down and just do a Q&A and just
Ryan McGee does that with us almost weekend. He talks to kids on campus. That's
so
awesome.
I did that almost every week. And then Noah joined me about halfway through. And that was great because, he fit right in. He's just like he just graduated, But what I tell people all the time is, first of all, anything you can do, any experience you can get, take it. If you're on college campus, if you can do women's volleyball, or if you can go do a high school basketball game, anything you can do it. Try to get it on tape. and then try to find somebody that's in the business that you respect that can give you some feedback, and then if it's a former player or something that is getting in and gets an opportunity, I tell everybody this, look, the first game I did, I got the best advice I could ever get from a producer who had produced Super Bowls. And he sat down with me and he said, look, if you don't remember anything else, the guy sitting next to you, his job, the play-by-play guy, is to tell people what happened, who made the tackle, who carried the ball, what the down and distance is. He said, that's not your job. Your job is not to repeat what he said or to say something that everybody can see. Your job is to try to answer the question, why? Okay? Why did this play work? Why didn't it work? Why is the game going this way? Why is the momentum shifting? So my whole career, I've tried to do two things. Answer the question, why, which you can't do every play, but I do it as often as I can, and say it in a way that my wife would understand it.
Yeah.
Because you're not just speaking to a bunch of former players and coaches, right? It's a vast audience, so you can still explain the game and give insight, but you got to do it in a way that everybody could understand it. And so, that's really the way I approach it. And then the other thing I would tell everybody is you got to be yourself. You got to allow your personality to come through. You can't try to sound like a broadcaster, or try to be somebody you're not.
Yes.
So do your homework, be prepared, but then be relaxed enough to allow your personality to come through.
So with that being said, the advice that you just gave, Tom Brady is stepping into the broadcasting seat this year for the first time. I would assume he's kind of cold turkey, no preseason games.
But he's been, I think they had him underneath the shadows grinding the last year. Yeah, but go ahead.
How do you think he will do?
So it's funny. I got kind of two parts to that answer. So first of all, I think he's probably going to do really well.
Yeah.
He's very well spoken. He obviously knows the game. He sees everything, right? And I think he's a good communicator. So I think he'll do well. I think you're right. I think they have done some stuff with him. I think he'll do some stuff before he does his first major game to where he's comfortable in the booth. So I think he'll do really well. The crazy thing to me is, I've gotten to be very good friends with Greg Olson now. Yeah. And we're actually coaching together. And
you're part of that dynamic duo.
Yeah, I'm part
there.
of that staff.
Oh, you're part of that. So you're over there too.
Yeah.
That dynamic.
Y'all
that
gonna win the
dynamic.
Super Bowl.
The middle school.
Greg, his dad, who won 9 state championships, Luke Kuechly, me, and Jonathan Stewart. We're all there.
The dynamic.
And what's the name of the team?
Charlotte Christian Middle School.
The most dynamic, lowest paid coaching staff in history.
Do these 8th graders even know?
I don't know.
Do they even know about the 1983 draft class and everything that you've
probably
done?
Don't know that. They probably know a little bit about the guys that just stopped playing. But
my God, that's so cool.
Anyway, I was just going to say, we've got to be friends, and he's phenomenal at what he does. I mean, he just won an Emmy as the best analyst last year, and he's getting bumped down to the number 2 team,
which is crazy to me.
But I think he kind of knew it was coming. When they hired Tom, and Tom sat out last year, and Greg will be fine, but he's terrific at what he does.
Yeah,
go ahead. No,
you go. Fine.
Are you trying to copy me right now? All right, we're gonna get into some fun questions here. Are wins a quarterback stat?
Are wins? Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, they keep score, right? So the ultimately winning games is, I think the bottom line number that matters the most. I mean, obviously stats. People do a lot of stuff with stats, but at the end of the day, it's, do you win? Do you get your team in the end zone? Do you win?
Shout out to my boy Greg McElroy, because that's his ultimate stat.
Yeah.
Okay. Mount Rushmore. Who is on your personal Mount Rushmore of influence? You get 4. You've had a tremendous career. Okay. Life.
I wanted to ask that other one before. That would have been really good. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, since you say it like that, why don't?
Yeah, I want to. I want to know your best cities.
Thank you.
And places to eat. on the road? Because like I want to know because I need those.
We gotta work on your communication.
I'm sorry about that.
You're broad.
I needed that one, Peanut. I apologize.
Does your partner do that to you? Like he just cuts you off and just interrupt?
Oh, I needed that.
Like I ask the question. He's like, I wish you wouldn't did that.
I apologize. I needed it.
But why? You just can't.
I'll get you a list.
Okay.
It's too hard for me to come up with one right now, man. There's too many, so many great ones.
All right, good.
So many great ones. Yeah.
I quit.
All right.
I'm gonna walk off the set.
All right, we'll come back.
Just Mount Rushmore of
you got
34 years of just broadcasting, legendary 83 draft class, great high school career, great college career, NFL career.
Yeah.
You've had help along the way.
Oh yeah.
Right? If you could pick 4 people that have helped you along the way and just get you to where you are today in life, who would those 4 people be?
Yeah. Well, so I would say my dad is one. Definitely been a strong influence. Joe Paterno is another one. Was a very strong influence in my life for the time I was at Penn State. The guy I mentioned, Guido D'Elia, you know, as far as my broadcasting career and my development as an analyst, he's definitely one. And then, so I'm going to give you, you know, one of those kind of political answers on the 4th one. I mean, it's hard for me to pick one, but I have worked with so many great partners that have shaped me. I mean, I worked with Vern Lundquist. I worked with Brad Nessler. I worked with Sean McDonough. I worked with Mike Patrick. I worked with Mike Tirico. I mean, those 5 guys are as good as anybody that's ever done it, right? And I had the privilege of working with them, and each one of them helped me to get better,
right,
and to elevate what I do. So I would put some combination of those 5 guys on that last face.
Yeah. So it's about 9 people on that.
Yeah, there you go.
Mount Rushmore.
I love that. I mean, you're right. Your successor or the people that are around you, that all help so much. And I would thank you, Todd. I told Peanut how excited I was to get up here and talk to you. And then
you're his MJ in broadcasting.
Once I got to
huge compliment to you, sir.
Once I did more research, I just had no idea, and I apologize for that. But I love you for that because you let me know that I had no idea, and that's by the way that you portrayed yourself and carried yourself, and how interested you were in what I was trying to do, and the questions that I had for you at the time. So thank you for that. And also another great quote that came from you, from your guy Joe Paterno, who's on your Mount Rushmore, and everybody should listen to this because this is great. Success is never final, and failure is never fatal. So it's never over until you give up on yourself. So thank you for that, man. A lot of people need that. We appreciate that, and I got that from you, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate
you.
Fun. Thanks for blessing us. Really blessing this man, because I feel like when you gave the advice, you was really talking to him.
I needed that. I needed it. I also needed them cities and with the food, but it's all good. We'll get that later.
We will get that later. Appreciate you. I'm Peanut. That's Rome. This is the NFL Players Second Acts podcast. Check us out on our NFL YouTube channel. Share, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a
friend.
All right. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio app. Check us out. Peanut, NFL Second Play, NFL Series.
Yeah, man, just say it. You got it.
I'm tongue twisted right now.
You got it, though.
NFL Players Second Acts podcast. We out. But before we get out, though, Thomas, don't do your head like that. Every time we make these mistakes, our producer, Thomas, he's in the back like rolling around, and I wish we had a camera to see his face because he is just, he's living right now.
It's fine.
But it's okay. We make mistakes. Behind the scenes, we ending it. We out.